My name is Mia Williams. I've been married for 25 years. My husband is a struggling comic book artist with next to no income. Still, he manages to make a little pocket money by drawing small illustrations, but the payments are deposited into an account under his name, which I manage. Because of this, he boasts, I'm the one supporting the family. But the reality is the complete opposite. It's actually me, a nurse, who's supporting us. This has made our life difficult, but my husband doesn't understand it at all. We somehow managed to get our son through college, and now that he's working, he's finally starting to contribute a bit to the household, giving us a much-needed break. I was thinking that now, without the major expense of tuition, we could even travel together as a couple. That's when it happened. My husband came out with something unbelievable. I want to support my mistress who's suffering from cancer and my lonely, illegitimate child. When he suddenly said this, I thought it was a new story for his comic. Oh, a mistress and an illegitimate child suffering from cancer, huh? It's a bit cliché, but it could be interesting depending on the development. I'm serious. At your age, aiming for a newcomer's award? But you're technically a pro since you're getting paid, so that's not gonna happen, right? What are you talking about? This isn't about a comic. My husband was insisting it was the truth, desperately. His desperation slowly made me wonder, and I began to think this might actually be an admission of an affair. So, you're saying you've been cheating, right? No mistake? Yeah, no mistake, but it's not cheating. If it's not cheating, then what is it? It's serious. My husband, nostrils flaring, insisted it was serious. Whether it's cheating or serious, to me, his wife, it's undoubtedly a betrayal. Did you say illegitimate child? Yeah, an illegitimate child. So, you're saying it's your kid, right? Exactly. And how old is this child? 5 years old. So, this has been going on for 6 years? No, 8 years. 8 years ago. My mind started racing. That was when our son was 16. He had been cheating since then, spinning around like a top between here and there. And you had no clue. How can he say that so proudly? Right, back then, our son was going through his rebellious phase. And you were often away from home, coming up with excuses like looking for comic book ideas or going on trips with friends. Yeah, that's right. So, I've been deceived for 8 years? Well, yeah, that's about it. My husband always chased his dreams, claiming he had no interest in anything but comics. He was so determined to become a successful comic book artist. But years passed, and success never came, nor did our financial situation improve. When we were younger, he would apologize, saying, since you're working outside, I'll take care of the house. He did everything, cooking, cleaning, laundry. When we had our child, taking him to daycare and caring for him when he was sick became my husband's job. I never had to take a day off work. Thanks to that, we've made it this far, and I wasn't as pressed for time as other nurses. But as our son hit his rebellious phase and turned his frustrations towards my husband, he began to escape more frequently outside. That's when he started throwing harsh words at me. You're lucky, being working all the time. You don't have to worry about our son's rebellious phase. But if I hadn't worked? Yeah, I'm sorry. My income is so low. But remember, I'm the one feeding you all. Don't forget that, no matter how much you work. What? Despite never having earned enough to support us. And I had kept quiet to protect his pride, worried that confronting him would crush his spirit and he'd lose the motivation to work. What do you think you are? Marrying you was a real mistake. I've never once eaten a home-cooked meal from you. Every other wife cooks. But that's because... I had my reply. He said he'd handle everything himself because he wanted me to focus on my job. That's why he said it. Whenever I tried to do anything around the house, he'd tell me it wasn't necessary. Yet now, to bring this up, I was both surprised and saddened. All you talk about is work, but nursing isn't that big a deal, is it? Just follow the doctor's orders and have a chat with patients. Can you even call that work? Those words really got to me. The person who should understand most how demanding and nerve-wracking being a nurse can be, didn't get it at all. Since then, every time he saw my face, he would complain. He showered me with insults. And he hardly ever stayed home. The frequency of calls from our son saying, Dad's not coming home, increased, and there was even a time when even our son stopped coming home. Somehow he made it to college, But the situation didn't change, and I felt left alone in the house. And now, to realize all this was because of an affair. So, you were saying all those terrible things to me because you had a mistress? What are you talking about? I've been told quite a few terrible things. I just said what I was thinking. I don't recall saying anything terrible. He didn't even realize he was hurting me. Fine, let's get a divorce. He put the divorce papers in front of me. Was this his way of showing he was serious, having prepared something like this? Why had I been so desperate to support a life with this man? And to think, I even harbored a faint hope that maybe, just maybe, we could return to how things were if we went on a trip together as a couple. How foolish I was. Can you at least tell me her name? What? I think I have the right to know who she is. What are you gonna do with that information? She's sick. What do you plan to do? Go there and do what? He yelled as if screaming, trying to protect her. On the contrary, he saw me as nothing but a threat. What a situation. The shock was immense, and he was no longer a man I wanted to keep by my side. I can live on my own, and our son is now settled. I don't need this man to live. I don't intend to harm your girlfriend. I just thought I had the right to know her name. But it's fine, I'll give you the divorce. In return, I'm keeping the house. Fine, do whatever you want. I'm going to live with her, so I don't need this house. He must have thought he won because I backed down. Puffing out his chest, my husband declared he didn't need the house. After signing the divorce papers, I handed them to him. We're strangers now. Yeah, well, I guess you won't remarry, but find someone good and be happy. As if he meant that. Such hollow words. When he left, I didn't cry, I just laid my head down on the table. I wished sleep would take me, but my mind was too alert to rest. What were these 25 years all about? As the room darkened and night fell, my son came home. Thinking no one was there due to the darkness, he was surprised when he turned on the light. Mom, are you okay? Hey. What happened? Did something happen? As he rummaged in the fridge for a drink, I told him about the separation from his father. He turned around, surprised at first, but then he spoke quite lightly. So, I see. Well, that guy was just like that. Now that the burden's gone, isn't it better? Oh, so he was our burden. But the shock of divorce wasn't something that could be easily dismissed. He didn't even tell me the woman's name. Do you want to know? It'd be nice to know, but it's not like I'm going to do anything with that information. If it'll make you feel better, I'll find out for you. Saying this, my son patted my back, trying to cheer me up. Having been down for a while, I decided not to let this break me and to focus solely on work. Lost things don't return, and they weren't worth mourning over. That's what I convinced myself. I threw myself into work more than ever, gradually recovering from the shock. 3 months passed, and my emotions stabilized. My role as a nurse, which had supported me, inspired a new determination to support my patients. One day, as I was walking through the hospital, a patient in a wheelchair called out to me. Turning around, I saw a patient wrapped in bandages, looking almost like a mummy. Unable to move the wheelchair themselves, followed by a new nurse. Mia! You're Mia, right? Please, help me! Take care of me! Questions flew through my mind. It was impossible for a patient to know me by name in this hospital. You're a surgery patient, aren't you? Then, the new nurse informed me that he was Daniel Williams. Daniel Williams was the name of my husband from whom I separated 3 months ago. I was speechless at his drastically changed appearance, but since he said he was headed back to his room, I decided to take over pushing his wheelchair. Daniel squinted happily as we moved outside. I decided to take over pushing his wheelchair and we moved outside. Knowing that the courtyard would be deserted, I asked him there. How did this happen to you? Well, it was an accident. And your mistress? I kicked her to the curb myself. Despite Daniel saying this with such arrogance, he wasn't strong enough to have ended things under these circumstances. So, you're the one who ended it? Yeah, exactly. Even with an illegitimate child involved? Yeah, for all I know, that child might not even be mine. How things have changed in just 3 months. One could guess there was some drama between them. But I didn't know what it was, and as I looked at Toshio's figure, I felt like a sucker. Weren't you dumped rather than being the dumper? He looked down as I said it. seemingly hitting the mark. Yet, he quietly denied the truth. Well, it doesn't matter to me whether you were dumped or you left her. More importantly, your mistress's name was Camila Johnson, right? She's 10 years younger than you, 40 years old. Why do you know that? Claiming she had cancer seems like a lie. You got played nicely. Well, you've been deceiving me all along, so maybe it's a match made in scammer heaven. How do you know it's not cancer? Just knowing her name doesn't mean you know everything. After you left, my son looked into her. He found out her name and which hospital she frequents. But we couldn't get her diagnosis due to privacy reasons. So, how do you know it's not cancer? I'm a nurse, so I have my connections, and that's how I was able to find out. Sure, she was visiting the hospital, but it was for dermatology, you know. It was for an allergic condition that could improve with dietary care. That's so? Apparently, she doesn't like dealing with the details, such as diet therapy. Maybe she used her rash to claim she had skin cancer? You, being naive, believed her, right? Well, yeah, sort of. She probably thought you were a successful comic artist because you spent money on her generously while you were together. Then, even though the child was with another man, she claimed it was yours to keep you tied down. There's no proof it's not my child. Oh, but you just said it wasn't yours. That's my guess. But for a woman who's been with multiple men, isn't that a reasonable suspicion? You, on your part, were trying to keep a woman by spending on her. A mutual interest, right? She figured if you believed the child was yours, you'd believe anything, even cancer. Thinking she could live a comfortable life with a successful comic book artist who could afford such expenses. She had no idea you were dipping into my savings. How did you know it came from your account? After you left, I checked the bank book. I had trusted our family, so I never worried about it before. But when I started to pay attention, I noticed there were withdrawals every month. I never imagined my own husband was a thief. I was really shocked. But seeing you now, I think I can forgive that part. Really? You're kind, Mia. Well, I don't know about being kind. There's more to this story. Once you and she started living together, and she discovered you were nearly incomeless, she must have been furious and demanded you work. You thought you could get by without working, just like with me, because you believed your small illustrations were enough to support us. So, you told her, I've been supporting the family with my income. It'll be fine moving forward, didn't you? Yeah, exactly. Because we've been living on my income until now. How naive. How did you think a family of 3 could live on your allowance? I kept quiet because I thought telling the truth would hurt your pride. Thinking that I could support a family is ridiculous. That's stupid. The stupid one is you. She was after your money and got fed up with you being practically unemployed. Then she revealed she didn't have cancer, right? You're right. She was after my money. As soon as she found out my income was low, she started nagging me to work every day. But I'm a comic artist, I told her that's my job, but she said that wasn't a real job because it doesn't make enough to live on. If I don't work, she said we should break up. Exactly. Instead of giving her the divorce papers, she gave them to you. She was lying to me. Saying she had cancer when she didn't, making herself out to be some poor, pitiful woman. But you were the one who couldn't see through her lies and ran off to her, wasn't it your decision? Yeah, you're right. I was really stupid. And then? And then? This is quite an interesting story so far. It could make for good work. But what about after that? How did you end up wrapped in bandages like a mummy? If that part isn't clear, it'd make the comic less interesting. Shocked by being dumped by her, I drank and drove my car too fast. Then, I had an accident, and here I am. Quite a mundane ending, isn't it? That would be a letdown for the readers. My life isn't a comic. It's almost like one. Making fun of people, then running off to a woman, and being used by her, it's practically a comedy. I never thought she'd be like that. Well, love is blind, isn't it? That's why I need your help. Why did you drink and drive? Were you trying to say goodbye to this world? Yeah, at that time, I thought it would be easier to just leave it all behind than to be dumped by her. But after surviving, I don't feel that way anymore. Yet, here I am, covered in bandages, and Camila won't even answer my calls. I don't know what to do. Running into you now must be fate, right? It's not fate. You knew I worked at this hospital. Plus, it's an emergency hospital, so it's inevitable you'd be brought here. No, I think this is fate. You and I are tied together by a red thread. Done. What's that? I've cut the tie between us. We don't need that. Please! Help me out! You know, I'm in internal medicine. I can't take care of you. If you need help, ask a surgical nurse. Take care of me as your wife. I'm not your wife. We divorced 3 months ago. After the way we parted, why would you think I'd want to take care of you? Even if you were the last man on earth after a catastrophic event, I would not want you. Don't say that. You're not the kind of woman to abandon me, right? That's just wishful thinking. You're a nurse, right? Nurses are supposed to be that way, aren't they? No, nursing is just about following doctors' orders and smiling at patients. It's an easy job. How can you think a nurse doing such an easy job would be that kind? Impossible. They said I might have lasting effects after being discharged. It must be quite serious with all those bandages. Even if you heal, the skin might contract and the pain could be unbearable. It's tough, really, truly. I think it was good that we divorced then. I'm glad I don't have to carry a burden like you anymore. I can't handle this alone. You chose this, so you have to deal with it. You'll probably regret not dying in that accident because of the pain. Nurses can't just ignore their patients. Well, that would be true for a nurse, but I've decided to leave this hospital. Why? The doctor here is starting his own practice and asked for my help, so I decided to assist him. Then that's fine too. I don't have anywhere to live. Let me stay at your place. You should ask your mistress for that. I broke up with her, so that's impossible. Well, we're divorced, so it's impossible for me too. You're going to abandon me? You were the one who abandoned me. A month later, I resigned from my job. While saying my goodbyes, I received a call. Looking at the screen, it was from an unknown number. Normally, I wouldn't answer, but considering it was my last day, I thought it might be someone from the hospital, so I decided to pick up. Then, the caller was someone I'd least expected. In other words, it was Camila Johnson, the woman who took Daniel away. Are you Daniel's ex-wife? She yelled right off the bat, almost like a declaration of war. Yes, who might this be? It doesn't matter who I am. Your husband has been bothering me. Could you be Camila? The one who took my husband away? Yes. Do something about it. You're the one who took him, but I'm glad we're divorced. Thanks for taking him off my hands. Why would it turn out like this? Even after we broke up, he wants to live together after being discharged, sending me messages every day. Plus, he blames me for his condition, saying it's because of the money he spent on me that we could live. What's with him? He's really creepy. Really creepy, huh? Not exactly the words you'd expect from a smart woman. Oh, right, she's not the brightest. So, do something about it. You're a nurse at the hospital he's admitted to, right? That's only until today. I'm leaving this hospital. And whatever happens between you two, it's none of my business. It's not none of your business. You're his ex-wife. Ex, so it is none of my business. The same goes for you once you break up, right? It's not the same at all. I never thought he'd be so clingy. He was always a weak person. No money? That's fraud. A scam. Is the child Daniel's? Of course not. Daniel keeps saying because the child is his, he needs to be by their side. That we can't break up because of that, spouting all sorts of nonsense. But I've told him the child isn't his, and using the child as leverage is just low. Resorting to lies and deceit was your doing, so it's only natural you'd have to deal with it. How am I supposed to live with such a pauper? You were after his money, but sadly, I was the one supporting him all along. Even though he called himself a comic artist, he hardly wrote anything, not having a serial publication or anything. You should have known he was broke. I had no idea. I'm so fed up with that annoying man. Now he's not even a mummy, but we'll be left with keloids, looking like a monster. That's quite a thing to say. The thought occurred to me. Even though they had both been lying to each other, once it came to separating, she was ready to push him down further. Thank you, Camila. What for? Talking to you has made up my mind. If you're going to be this awful, I have no reservations. What are you talking about? I'll be suing you for damages, so be prepared for that. Why would you sue me for damages? Please discuss this with your lawyer. Wait a minute. After hanging up, I headed to my ex-husband's hospital room. Just punishing the woman wouldn't be fair. He looked happy to see me as he lay in pain on the bed. Have you decided to help me? No, I've come to tell you that I'll be suing you for damages. Damages? For what? We divorced because of you. How can I pay any damages when I'm like this? I can't work, and I certainly don't have the money. That's not my problem. I've just told Camila I'd be suing for damages. How can you do something so stupid? Instead of helping, you're pushing me further into hell? You're the one who grabbed your ticket to hell by your own choice. So, why should I be the one to blame? Don't you think that's absurd? Because I'm in this condition. You've always been like this, blaming me, trying to justify yourself. Despite all my efforts for you, you never acknowledge them, only complaining about your hardships. But think about it, you were at home all day, either reading or creating comics, and I never complained. Even if I did, you'd say it was part of your job, your fertilizer. That's the truth. Is it? I think the reason your comic never sold is because you lack life experience. Everything is a product of your imagination, so the content lacks depth. Well, that's how it is. Someone who's never worked can't write about workplace relations, and their stories lack depth. You thought that of me? Yes, I didn't say it because it was pointless. You've said quite a bit to me, though. When you say something to someone, it's either because you're trying to crush them or you wish for their growth. I didn't feel either towards you. So, you never really loved me? That's right. Now that I've analyzed it calmly. And by the way, I've decided to sell the house. What? That's my house. No, it's not. That house was given to me by you 3 months ago. So, the deed is in my name. No way! I won't be giving you the money from the sale. You said you didn't need it when you left, after all. What about a place for me to live? Where do I go? You seem to be in touch with Camila, trying to reconcile. But she told me. You're using the child as leverage to get back together, but the child isn't yours. My guess was right. That's ridiculous. So, I'm quitting my job as a nurse here after today. Today, huh? Yes, I'm switching to a clinic. It's far from here, so commuting is impossible. But I don't plan to anyway. That's why I've decided to sell the house. That's unbelievable. Daniel seemed speechless at the news. After undergoing skin graft surgery and being discharged, he couldn't work and had to return to his parents' home. Struggling with pain every day, Daniel had no choice but to rely on his parents. However, his parents were too old to take care of him, so the responsibility fell to his siblings. But even his siblings were cautious, not wanting to upset their wives. Knowing why Daniel ended up in such a state, his sister-in-law was furious, deeming it self-inflicted and upset at his disrespect towards women. She thought he should live alone in an apartment, so she found him a cheap place and kicked him out. The only things in his room were a computer and some bedding. Her rationale was, he was a comic artist, so he should be able to stand on his own. Daniel lamented being abandoned, but to survive, he had to keep drawing comic, though it was more for his own satisfaction than for sales. Eventually, he was so desperate for help that he called me, struggling even to find enough to eat. Help me, I'll starve to death at this rate. I apologize for everything. Please, come help me. Fed up with Daniel's constant whining, I blocked his number. Meanwhile, I've been enjoying my work at the clinic. Lately, I've been spending private time with the clinic's doctor, going out for meals. Though Daniel was a painful memory, the doctor's kindness has helped me recover, and I'm even considering remarrying. Someday, if I remarry the doctor, I plan to send Daniel an invitation.